So remember how mad I would get? And I couldn't tell you because you were so sensitive.
Yes, I was.
But then I wanted to sing for 45 minutes to an hour. And you would go, you're wearing the people out.
Oh, my God.
You're leaving me with nothing.
You take all the energy out of the room, and then I got to resurrect them. So I preach for an hour just to keep them, raise them from the dead. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Family Business with the Alessis. And I'm Steve Alessi here with my wife, Mary Alessi. And I didn't even step out of the podcast booth to change my shirt.
Didn't either
because we're sitting here today and we're like, you know what? We need to go ahead and hammer out this 25th church anniversary celebration podcast, where the business that we are a part of, we founded started 25 years ago, and in September, we celebrate an anniversary, and it's our 25th, which is our silver anniversary. Pretty cool.
That's very
cool. As a church. As a business.
That's amazing.
Do you remember what it took 25 years ago?
I do.
Wow.
I remember what it took to step out in faith and look for a building, and just a handful of the families and couples, we all had little kids that went with us and said, we'd help you start and launch. And we just started a hotel. It's now that I look back with all that God has given us, it's just so hard to believe that we did that.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing that we did that, but it's still just such a dreamy blur, you know, but it was an incredible experience. It was difficult.
Right.
But it was pretty incredible.
Well, we are pastors, and we try to use our podcast to not speak the Christianese all the time. So we try our best to just speak regularly, and it's hard to do that for us in this episode without bringing God into the picture, because so much of what we have, everything that we have today, is a testament to what a person can enjoy in their life if they keep God at the helm.
Yeah.
Now, I worked with my parents. I came out of college in '84, started working here in Miami with my dad at his church, my dad and mom. I worked for 13 years. You came in the picture within those 13 years. You walked into the church where I was working, and you and I got married. And then a few years after that, we got married 87. A few years after that, we found ourselves walking through a challenging season with the ministry, and we stayed at it. My parents took a couple years off to get some things recalibrated. And then they came back in. That's our word.
Just for anyone who's listening, that's like our word, recalibrate.
For the day.
Yes.
And then they came back in, and we stayed there another 3 years.
Yeah.
But after that third year or so, I felt like, okay, it's time to go. And that was 97. It was right after Easter, April of 97. And I went and told my dad it's time for me to move on. And that went over like a ton of bricks, because he didn't appreciate that too well, which I understood, because we were doing the good things together. But I just needed to take this next step. Yeah. And thankfully, a couple of years went by, and he and I got back on the same page, and life was great with him. And he was so honoring and made this new season beautiful, because he and I got on the same page about it, as well as my mom. But I can remember that was like May. We said, we're leaving.
Right.
And got up that Sunday, said our goodbyes. And then from June, July, and August, we were prepping to then launch our church on September the 12th. It was a Friday night of 1997. And geez, Mary, do you realize, we had to restart our entire career?
Everything we had basically developed, the skills, the relationships, everything. We had to leave after 10 years, a decade of that, and start over. Without our own church building, no staff, just us.
No money.
No money. That's the most important thing. No money.
No money.
But we did have some pretty amazing, because we did
Miraculous
step out. Miraculous
provisions.
provisions. We did, which is
we
pretty
did.
amazing.
Yep.
But just enough to get us through. Nothing that was no big sponsor came
No.
and helped us from the outside.
No.
It was us and the 4 or 5 families we started with that believed enough in what God was doing that we pulled our resources.
We sure did.
And we made it happen.
They were so good, these couples that started. We went and first started having meetings in their living rooms.
Yep.
Our house was not big or cool or nice enough to have anybody at our place.
Right,
but
and we were far.
Yeah.
We lived far for everybody.
And we started to meet in their homes.
Yeah.
And we had a little Bible study and then strategy session. And I remember after the first meeting, people won't believe this, but I remember after the first meeting that we had in the home, that we were done with the meeting and I was ready to dismiss and pray. And we were about to leave and one of the guys stopped and said, "Wait, Pastor Steve, you didn't take an offering."
That's right. I forgot that.
And at that point, all the guys were like, "Man, we're holding on to our tithes. We hadn't been going to church. What do we do?" We're like, "Okay, well, let's take our first offering." But imagine that the church was started, the very first meeting, on the foundation of the not taking an offering.
Incredible.
Boy, have we broken that cycle over the years, right? We always get it in.
We've never forgotten it.
We've never forgotten the offering.
Something we forget.
Again.
I will say one of my earliest memories there's so many.
Yeah.
When we rented here in Doral, I think it's the Doral Country Club.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
First we met at the AmeriSuites.
We were at the hotel, which we had to get out of there because our second child, Stephanie, was destroying all the hotel rooms where the kids were staying. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yep.
And we moved out of there. Plus, we grew out of it so fast.
We did. We grew out of it.
And we went over to the Doral Country Club.
I wanted it to be, the reason I wanted to shift really was because I wanted it to be fresh and new and so high class. Going into the country club, having church service in the country club.
You didn't like telling people we were at the AmeriSuites Hotel.
No, it had to be Doral Country Club.
We didn't want to be a hotel church, but we had good services in there.
So it was the Doral Park. It was Doral Park Country Club that we went to, and what happened there?
And one whole side of the building in the meeting room, the beautiful, gorgeous atrium where they let us have our services, but it was right off the golf course. And the whole side of that building was just glass that you could look out.
And the pool.
So a lot of ladies from other South American countries, which will remain nameless, were sunbathing with not the respectful attire as we do so in America. And so we're trying to have service and watching the, can I say it, the fanny parade? And even that many years ago, this was the style back then with that particular group of women.
I was clueless because my back was to it and I'm trying to preach.
Yeah.
And the guys are all checked out.
And we're like, oh my, do not turn around. You will lose your salvation. So that didn't work.
No, I think we were there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we couldn't stay there. They moved us into a little small space. I don't know if you remember that, where we had the first baby dedication. And then we were like, nah, this is not going to work. Yeah. Because I was trying to lead worship, playing the piano, and the first row was we could spit on each other.
That was the Holiday Inn we moved into.
See? Look at your memory.
Yeah.
So we went to the Holiday Inn and then there.
Went to the Doral Park Country Club, couldn't stay there. We had to find something else because of the fanny parades. And we went over to the Holiday Inn. And we had Easter at the Holiday Inn, and we had an egg hunt out in their parking lot. And so we couldn't do that much longer because the kids were running around in the parking lot with cars off of 87th Avenue zooming by. But we made a go of it.
We did.
Gosh.
We had some pretty big ideas back then. Do you remember when we rented out the firehouse? It's still here in Doral.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when we did that? I found pictures recently.
Yep.
Because we wanted to expand. It was
an anniversary, I think.
I think it was Easter.
Yeah, you're right.
It was Easter.
You're right.
And we just had so many people come to that service, and it gave us a snapshot of what our future would be. Mm-hmm. And I think we had about maybe 250, 300 people there at the time, but it felt so huge.
It was huge.
Which it was for a startup ministry.
Yeah.
Now we look back, and what we thought was small, because we'd come from such a large church starting over, now we see that was amazing.
Yeah.
That was an amazing growth that we didn't really realize.
You know,
as good as it was.
I think this is funny because some of the stress that it caused on you and I in our relationship, I mean, we walked away from the comfort of a paycheck.
Yeah.
We didn't have that when we left the old church. So we had to start again. So now we were dependent on ourselves.
Yeah.
We didn't have a boss.
No.
That was stressful because you're stepping into the unknown.
Yeah.
And who are you going to bet on? Nobody better than yourself.
That's right.
And that's what we had to do.
We did.
We knew I had the communication going and you had the music going. We knew we were a great team. We knew we could pull something off there as a couple.
That we didn't have to get into any arguments over because we'd had those years to develop our working together and your ministering and me singing, and we had that.
Yeah.
We were in tandem there.
Yeah.
Which was great.
So it took, when we stepped out, it took a lot of faith in God.
Yeah.
Because we had to know for sure that he was telling us to do this.
Right.
And you didn't agree at first.
Mm-mm.
Right?
Well, remember, I did, and then you said not now, and then we got settled in for those 3 years, and I changed my mind. I was like, we don't need to leave.
When we went to go,
oh yeah,
you were not crazy about it at all.
No, we're locked in here now. We've got 2 kids here that are making friends here at the old church, and I was like, I don't know, I think we can overcome any little issue we're having here. Let's just stick it out. And you just had this go from God. We have got to do it now.
Mm-hmm. So it took an incredible belief in God that he was telling us to do it, but it also took belief in ourselves.
Yeah.
That was a big step. And then it took, this is what I love about our business and our church, what we've done to this day. Everything's so relationship oriented, which is the reason we even do this podcast, is to build relationships. But we have, Mary, to this day, many of the same people that were there day one staying with us.
Which is unheard of.
That gives me one of my greatest joys.
It does. And what's been so cool is different guests we've had that come throughout the years that come to minister or speak. They will make that comment. You know, every time I come here, it's the same group of people that greet me here in this green room, or your staff. It's the same people. And we didn't think that was uncommon because it's been what we know. It's our world. But when we'd have different guests come in and say, guys, what you have here, people don't have this. The turnover is dramatic in other churches. And because we have been all about relationship and loyalty and working things out, and God has sent us some amazing people, but our core value has been one of, we don't quit on each other. We're going to get through these seasons together. We're going to get through these difficult times relationally. It has paid off huge blessings, not only for you and I and for us, but now for their children and their children's children.
Yeah.
And that scripture verse is true.
Yeah. And we're seeing those older ones, the younger ones now, older ones, stepping into great leadership.
Yeah.
I looked over my shoulder not too long ago, which I'll do on occasion, and look at some of the people sitting right behind me, which are some of our dearest friends that have stayed right along with us from day one. And I look at that guy and I think to myself, my gosh, he's willing to sit, not in one service, but sometimes 2 services to hear me preach the same message.
After how many years?
After 25 years.
Like, I'm sick of hearing me. How are you standing this?
And I'm like, are you kidding me, man?
It's amazing.
Wow, that's just a testament to the good, solid people that we have. And I wish each of you that are listening to this would just recognize that value of long-term relationships. Yeah. And we've had plenty of opportunities along the way to step off relationally from one another.
Sure.
But nobody did.
No.
A few, we lost a few. But along the way, man, many of those people that were with us in that first Friday night have come back into our world or are around.
But I also want to say, I don't think we have any bad blood. Maybe I've forgotten somebody, but we don't have any bad blood with people that have left our church. And you and I both were raised in church. So we're talking about our own personal experiences growing up, that you factor in the fact that somebody's going to burn a bridge with you, and if you see them in the mall, you can't say hi because they used to go to your church and now they don't. And there was a church split. Yeah. We have never had a church split. We've never came close to a church split. And that's not just cross your fingers, hope to not die or to not have a church split. We have really worked hard to create a culture of, you're not going to split.
Yeah.
We're going to work out this relationship with you. And if there's something good here, then God will birth something out of it. But that hasn't even happened. We've really had stickability, people that were called to stay.
See, babe, what I wish people can pick up on is sometimes if you just do things right.
Do them right. Every time.
You just do them right. That's it. You know, I used to say to Christopher growing up when he was a kid, son, you can never go wrong by doing right.
And you can't.
But the flip side of that is true. You can never go right by doing wrong.
Yeah.
And there's some people, when it comes to building family, business, church, whatever it is, they think they can do wrong and it not have long-term consequences. It's going to nip you, man. It's going to come back.
Or fix it later in the future.
Yeah.
And
kick
you
it
can't.
down. No, I always knew, okay, I wanted it to grow faster. Remember when you used to get so frustrated that the church wasn't growing numerically faster? You would be so upset. What are you doing wrong, Steve? We're not doing this. We're not doing that. We got to go to this conference.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on a minute. You would preach an hour, and I would want to sing for an hour. So let's just be honest here.
Gosh.
You would preach 3 sermons in one.
Yeah.
And right when I would be like, okay, good, this is a perfect place for him to close. He has nailed it today. You'd start a whole new sermon. So remember how mad I would get? And I couldn't tell you because you were so sensitive.
Yes, I was.
But then I wanted to sing for 45 minutes to an hour. And you would go, you're wearing the people out.
Oh, my God.
You're leaving me with nothing.
You take all the energy out of the room, and then I got to resurrect them. So I preach for an hour just to keep them, raise them from the dead.
So let's just tell the people the real Hollywood true story.
Oh, no.
We did not always have it together. We are grateful for those early days, the people that loved us to love us through.
You know, it's funny.
I was going to say one more thing.
Go.
We didn't have any problems serving people to serve in the kids' ministry. Maybe that was why.
They loved us. They just hated the sermon.
Oh, no, I'll serve every Sunday.
In the children's ministry. That's funny.
I'm just speculating. We got to bring in some of the old timers and ask them.
Oh, man. What it is kind of funny today. Our kids, Gabby asked me the other day, she said, Dad, that sermon you're preaching now, is that all new?
Wow.
Or did you preach that before? And I said, Gabby, the truth is, it's new from a fresh perspective, but it's also my old sermon that I've just
shortened down.
just cut out half of the stuff I used to preach. And she says, well, Dad, actually, she prefaced all that by saying, you and Mom are preaching some of your best sermons ever right now. It's like, God. You're right. We had to cut out a lot of the fat.
Oh, my gosh.
Gosh, I can remember learning that lesson. No, I got to tell them. Oh. They got to hear it.
Because we're all dying tomorrow. If I don't say it today, they're not going to get it. And you would fight that, and I'd go, he's right. What kind of a pastor's wife am I?
Oh, my gosh. I remember when we started, and I hated to go out to the beginning of the service. And I felt bad for you, too.
Thank you. Tell the truth.
Because you would have to start the service.
With nobody.
You're on the keyboards at the time. So we got Alan Paul here, who's on our keyboards today, and Marcus, his son. But that was you back when we started.
I was like that monkey at the circus.
Clink, 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 playing the drums.
The little digital drum.
Ting,
terrible.
Ting, 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 playing. So you would go out there with your backup singers, and you'd be the leader. Meanwhile, we're in a group of like a room that seats, I guess there's close to 200 back then. But nobody, there's too crowded.
Oh, there was more people on the platform singing.
Oh, at that point.
Than there were.
So you would start, nobody'd be in the room.
Nobody be in the room.
And I would not go out because I was not going to subject myself to that kind of that pressure. It was terrible. And I used to think, thank God I'm not married at this point. And then my buddy comes to town, and we're like talking before the service, and you have to go out and leave to start. And he's like, Alessis, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm waiting my time.
I can't
He
do it.
says, no, man, you can't wait your time. You got to get out there and lead, dude. You got to lead. And if you're going to lead as a pastor, you got to lead and be out there before the praise and worship service starts. And I'm like,
that's a good imitation of him. That's exactly how he talked.
I'm like, So I listened to him for like a month, and I'm like, no way. I'm sorry. Mary gets paid a paycheck too. Let her handle that. I'll be there when I'm ready.
And you know why I didn't mind? Because it was the only area you couldn't tell me what to do. Because you were always so bossy. And I was like, I'm glad he's not out here. I can sing whatever I want to sing. He can't tell me what to sing. And we did. And hey, what's crazy, Steve, is that God used us. And we did it, I think.
And we did it in a way that our kids watched us from a distance and loved what we were doing enough to the point that we all work together today.
Everybody.
25 years later.
And 2 brand new in-laws.
That are right up alongside of us.
It's God.
Our dear daughter-in-law, Rochelle, she was here 7 years before she and Chris started dating. She was already part of our spirit.
She's in the DNA.
Loves the church.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And today, date this, we just opened up our school, kindergarten and first grade. And one day, in about 3 or 4 or 5 years, our granddaughter will be going to that school.
That's unbelievable.
That's cool.
And here's the caveat. Caveat's not the good word. Here is the resounding truth that faithfulness and consistency pays off.
Yeah.
Because that school is at the campus. I could cry. That we walked away from. How good is God? We started a school with our grandkids today that our grandchildren will go to, that our kids went to, and that we sacrificed and walked away. And that was a painful decision because it wasn't our plan A at all.
No, not at all.
But yet God allowed us to do that and step away, and we just got a whole lot more family and church people that are now part of the big picture of both campuses.
It was about 2012. Dad and I had the conversation, and we officially stepped in 2013. Let him and Mom retire,
Right.
And we took over the leadership of that campus. So we're in Doral and we're in Dadeland, and you're right. Shows you the importance of leaving a season of your life the right way.
No bad blood.
Because you never know when you'll be required to go back and cross that bridge again.
Yes.
That's why they say don't burn your bridges.
Because you might have an opportunity to go back and buy the bridge and everything it leads to.
It wasn't always easy, no doubt.
No.
There was stress on our marriage and our relationship. I always appreciated the fact, though, that we did demonstrate, baby, a team approach to this.
Yeah.
And I recognized that. I liked it. And there was nobody better that I would want to be doing this with because you were easy, and not always easy, but in the long run, we just knew we neaded to work together at it.
That's right.
It wasn't my church. It wasn't your worship ministry, or, we always had our.
That's right.
This is our. Matter of fact, to this day, I have to correct certain people on occasion that want to say, well, my team or my ministry or no. And even Gabby, she's got that verbiage down great. She goes, our team, our youth ministry, we've always promoted a team approach to what we do.
That's right. Always.
Always. And even with you over the years, when here I was the main communicator, and you were the worship person, the singer, and usually you put those in 2 different categories, and the worship person does their job and the communicator does his job. But I remembered as time was going on that you had a role to play communicating.
Right.
Because I'm talking to the men.
Right.
And the women were listening. A lot of women go to church without men. So women are always there, and they're able to receive from a man as he communicates. But I'm thinking one day, gosh, these women, they need a woman's voice.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, Mary, you got to start coming over here and sharing this platform to communicate with me as well, because I knew the value of the team approach. I can reach some people, but I can reach more people with you by my side as we share in these responsibilities together.
Right.
And so was there an ego check? Sometimes. because I'm so accustomed, a man's accustomed to, that was my platform, my job. This is what I knew that was what I wanted to be good at. But it was always worth saying, wait, back off. I need her up there. She needs to be up there. The church needs her up there. It was a real good team approach. So
well, we never had an issue where I felt like I wasn't heard or I didn't have a position. You always pushed me. Now the music was like my thing, and I was thrilled to just stay in that lane. I didn't care about teaching, but you are the one who finally said, we need to hear your voice. You need to come out of there and develop this communication gift. And that's really to your, what's the word? Credit. Thank you.
Vision.
Yes. Yeah. Awesomeness. Just keep going. Not mine, but I'm grateful. Yeah. But I'm grateful that you've always been that way.
Yeah. And now we're at this season, and our family comes up alongside of us, which is very rare.
Yeah.
And that's why we have our podcast, because we want people to know it's possible to work together and live together and be a family together.
That's right.
Because the priority is our family and relationship in the home. And I know church on Sunday is so fun. It's beautiful. After church is over and we love on everybody and, hug on them and leave, we get just as excited about the lunches that we get to have as a family. Those are highlights.
100%. That's when you can sit back and say, we did it right, not perfect, but we did more right than we did wrong, and we stayed faithful to the field that God gave us to sow seeds in, and now we're reaping a harvest.
Yeah. And we sit around that table and we ask everybody, hey, how did it go for you today? How did it go for you today? How was the kids ministry? Or, how was the leadership? Who'd you talk to? We ask specific questions. We like to hear from everybody. And of course, they're so kind to always tell us how good we do. And so it's a great family time. But 25 years is a real magic marking moment, Mary. You have to slow down a minute.
And honor it.
Yep. And that's why we're going to celebrate as we do every year and bring some friends around and just talk about the good things of life and the good things of God, because none of this would have been possible without us being called into this.
That's right. 100%. We answered the call.
We did.
And it's been worth the journey. Every difficult day, every Sunday we'd get to church and would not know if anybody other than the 10 of us would show up. We had Sunday after Sunday like that. We'd have Sundays where service would start and there'd be 15 people in the room, and then 30 minutes in, there'd be 150.
Yeah.
And I look back in those days where we just really had to say, God, this is your house. This is your church. We're just facilitating what you've called us to do. And we've had to continually sacrifice that over to him daily, and we still do. But I think what's pretty amazing is when you don't give up and you stay with your hand to the plow, because the Bible says those who put their hand to the plow and look back aren't worthy of the kingdom. And that was something that kept driving us all the time. We're not going to start something we're not going to finish, but we're going to keep our hand to the plow. The blessing of sitting around those lunches on Sunday is to know that throughout Chris has been with us now for 10 years on staff. Stephanie's going on 4 or 5 years. The other two are on 3 and 4 years. And then our new in-laws are with us about a year almost. Well, our son-in-law just started, but it's incredible how the Lord did it. But to have seen Christopher over the years build a young adult ministry to several hundred and a youth group, and then to see Gabby, our youngest, have a camp last week that had more kids than we had in our first 3 years of a church is just, it's a pivotal moment when you stop and realize at the 25-year mark, look what the Lord has done.
Some people would say, man, it's nepotism. You're hiring from within. Well, that's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
I think in terms of what we do, as long as they're called to it,
that's right,
gifted to it. Every one of our kids, Mary, and the in-laws have college educations.
Yes.
They've prepared themselves for this.
They could work anywhere.
They're they have continuing education, going to higher levels of education. They could get a job anywhere. I just happen to believe they share our same DNA, which means we're going to have a commonality in working together.
Yeah.
If we have to address something and build somebody, there's nobody better to be able to address it to than our own kids.
Right.
And if there's anybody that we want to pour into for the future, it's our own kids. So it's a healthy nepotism that I think is really needed when it comes to our type of business, if you've got the people behind you, which is your kids following you. If we didn't have our kids, there'd be other people we'd be raising up. But our goal is, in our family business, is we know we've brought it for 25 years. We also know there's 25 more years ahead of us. What do those next 25 years look like? We're setting up the next generation for those next 25 years. And it's going to be even greater. We've laid a healthy groundwork.
Amen.
Good foundation.
That's right.
The best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come.
You've done good.
And your latter will be greater.
There you go. Thanks for joining us today on another episode of The Family Business with Steve and Mary Alessis.
Hey there, if you enjoyed this episode of the Family Business Podcast with the Alessis, then you'll want to know we've got more insight, more encouragement, more great conversations that we can have on Sundays, and even some surprises coming your way. So you want to make sure you subscribe to our channel and watch one of these next videos here next, because remember, family is everybody's business.